These 8 advanced English words will sharpen your fluency and your IELTS, TOEFL, or Cambridge score. And you won't just memorize them. You'll meet each one inside the story, feel what it means, then prove you caught it. That's how your brain keeps them for good. By the time the night express reached the mountains, the snow was so deep that the train could barely crawl. And somewhere in the first-class carriage, a priceless gold watch had vanished into thin air. The doors had been watched all night. The windows were frozen shut, and yet old Mr. Halloran's most treasured possession was simply gone. The watch was the heart of the mystery, and the heart of Mr. Halloran's whole life. It was solid gold, 100 years old, and had belonged to his father and his father before him. He had shown it proudly to the entire carriage over dinner. By morning, when he reached for it on the little shelf of his sleeping compartment, it had disappeared. The conductor searched every compartment on the carriage and found nothing. There was no watch in any case, any pocket, or any folded coat. But suspicion fell at once on the young man in the next compartment. Petr, a poor foreign student who spoke little, kept to himself, and could not stop fidgeting under everyone's hard stares. He fidgeted with his cuffs, his ticket, and his collar, and every nervous movement only made him look more guilty. Only one passenger was not staring at Petr. In the corner seat, a quiet, gray-haired woman named Miss Cardew sat very still and watched everyone else instead. She had been a teacher for 40 years, and she had the sharp, patient eye of someone long used to spotting exactly who had really thrown the chalk. She was the most observant person on that train, and she did not believe for a single moment that the frightened boy was a thief. While the others argued, Miss Cardew worked methodically through the facts. The watch had not been found anywhere on the train, in any bag or pocket. So, she reasoned, the watch was no longer on the train at all. And if it had left the train, it could only have left at the one place the train had stopped, a tiny snowed-in village halt at 3 o'clock in the morning for 90 seconds in the freezing dark. She walked slowly down the corridor, and at each door she stopped and peered carefully inside. Petr's window was frozen shut, sealed with a hard, untouched crust of frost. But 2 doors along, at the window of a respected old soldier called Colonel Frayne, she peered closely and went very still. There, the frost had melted. A small pool of water sat on the inner ledge, and the wood was cold and damp to the touch. That window had been opened in the night. It was then that everything turned over. The colonel, respected, well-dressed beyond all suspicion, had calculated it perfectly. At the dinner table, he had seen the gold watch and the nervous foreign boy, and he had calculated that if anything went missing, every eye would land on poor Petr, and none at all on a decorated old soldier. In the dead of night, he had slipped into Halloran's unlocked room, taken the watch, and at the 3 o'clock halt had quietly opened his window and dropped it into the waiting hands of a man on the dark platform below. He had very nearly evaded every suspicion. A respected name and a calm, untroubled face had almost let him evade the search entirely. But he had not counted on the snow. The one subtle thing he could not wipe away was that small melting pool of water on his sill, a tiny subtle trace that a quiet old teacher had read like a printed page. When Miss Cardew laid it all out, the searched bags, the single midnight stop, the one window where the frost had melted, the carriage fell silent. Colonel Frayne's calm, observant mask finally cracked. The watch was recovered from his accomplice at the next large station, where the police were quietly waiting, and Petr, who had done nothing but fidget and look foreign and afraid, was free. Mr. Halloran got back the watch his father and grandfather had carried, and pressed a reward into Miss Cardew's hands, which she gently declined. She had not done it for money. She had done it because 40 years of teaching had taught her one thing above all others, that the loudest, most nervous person in the room is almost never the guilty one, and that the truth is found not by hunting for someone to blame, but by looking methodically and without fear at exactly what is there. The most observant eye on that whole train had belonged to the one passenger everybody else had overlooked. Now, and did you catch all 8? Let's find out. A noun for a separate private section of a railway carriage. It's the small enclosed room with seats you share on a long train. Mr. Halloran's gold watch vanished from the shelf of his sleeping one. The watch disappeared from the shelf of his sleeping what?
The word is compartment.
They had a whole train compartment to themselves on the long journey. A verb meaning to look very closely and hard at something, to see it better. It's how you squint at tiny writing or stare into a dim, dark room. Miss Cardew did this at each window as she moved down the corridor. At each door she stopped and did what? Looked closely. Inside? The word is peer. He leaned forward to peer through the foggy windscreen. A verb meaning to make small, restless movements because you are nervous or bored. It's the jittery wriggling of hands and feet that just won't keep still. Peter could not stop doing this under everyone's hard, suspicious stares. Peter could not stop doing what? Making restless, nervous movements with his cuffs and collar?
The word is fidget.
The bored child began to fidget halfway through the long speech. An adjective for being very good at noticing things that others miss. It describes the sharp-eyed person who spots every tiny detail. Miss Cardew was the most this person on the whole train. The most what kind of eye on the train. Quickest to notice things, belonged to the quiet old teacher.
The word is observant.
An observant waiter noticed the couple had not touched their food. A verb meaning to cleverly escape or avoid something, like blame or capture. It's how a clever criminal slips away from the police who are chasing. The colonel's calm face and good name almost let him do this to the search. A respected name had almost let the colonel do what? Slip away from every suspicion?
The word is evade.
The thief managed to evade the guards and slip out the back door. A verb meaning to work something out carefully and deliberately in advance. It's coldly working out the odds in the plan, step by careful step. The colonel had done this perfectly, planning exactly who would take the blame. The colonel had done what? Worked it out coldly in advance, so every eye would fall on poor Peter.
The word is calculate.
She calculated exactly how long the whole journey would take. An adjective for being so faint or slight that it is very hard to notice. It describes a hint so delicate that almost everyone walks straight past it. The melting pool of water was this, the one clue he could not hide. A tiny, what kind of trace of water, almost too faint to notice, gave the careful thief away. The word is subtle. There was a subtle change in her voice that only her sister caught. An adjective for doing something in a careful, orderly, step-by-step way. It describes the patient, organized person who checks every detail in order. Miss Cardew was exactly this as she worked through the facts one by one. She was calm and careful and step-by-step, working through the facts one at a time.
The word is methodical.
His methodical search of the room missed nothing at all. Quick recap. How many do you still remember?
Compartment. Peer. Fidget. Observant. Evade. Calculate.
Subtle.
Methodical.
A new English story every day. Subscribe and master advanced words the way your brain actually keeps them. Inside a story you won't forget.